We haven't spent much time talking about Kevin Durant and the prospect of the Toronto Raptors having a level of interest. Let me start with this because I know you may know some things that we don't know, but um, I know you got to be cautious given the fact that you essentially worked for the team. But do you think they're seriously interested?
Well, I think that they're curious. And I think that that's where every team would be right now, curious about what it's going to take, curious about the timeline. Because to me, Bob and John, this is a really interesting situation. We saw obviously what Minnesota was willing to pay for Rudy Gobert.
Mhm.
Um, 4 first-round picks, pick swaps, and then a bundle of players. But this is Kevin Durant, and I think and this has been reported. Miami and Phoenix would be the two places that he's extremely interested in, and this is the part of it that is really intriguing to me, as I would imagine um, to any team looking at this, and that is this: that more than likely, in order to get a player like Kevin Durant, Phoenix and Miami would have to give up pieces of their core. And then what does that do for Kevin Durant? It essentially puts him back into a situation that he was in Brooklyn,
Mhm.
where there wasn't a supporting cast, because that's what this is about. He understands, in my view, that in Brooklyn, the supporting cast wasn't there. You didn't know, right? Everything is great. Everything sounds good that you want to play. Two friends want to play together until you are there. And then you realize, okay, well, maybe something is just a little bit different from this. And this is not necessarily uh, what I expected. And there are only, I think, a handful of teams that probably have what it takes in order to do a deal with Brooklyn for Kevin Durant. The question is this: does Sean Marks understand that he may not get what he ultimately wants, right? And does Kevin Durant, who has, of course, the hope that wherever he goes, it's going to be a title contending team, does he understand, and I believe he does, that depending upon where he's sent, the package of players returning may prohibit him ultimately from achieving what he wants to achieve. And that's why, to me, this timeline is really interesting, intriguing, because I think there's some people that need to get comfortable with that, right? Get comfortable with the fact that Brooklyn may go for it all and try to get everything they can. And you know what? They don't necessarily care. Hey, Kevin Durant, we're going to send you to this place and we're getting the most out of it. And whether or not you believe or think or care that that's enough to get you to where you want to go, I would imagine would be their approach in this. But Durant, in the same token, would be saying, okay, you send me there, fine. I'm just going to try to work my way to, a different place. So it's intriguing. He's one of the best players in the NBA. He is somebody that if you put on certain teams, it would elevate them immediately into title contention.
Just for clarity. Well, let me throw this in, John. Just for clarity, he has no control over where he goes, correct?
He does not. He has 4 years remaining on his deal. And my understanding, there's only one no trade clause in the NBA. I could be wrong on that. But he's under contract, and you want to make sure that he's comfortable with it, and remember that who he's represented by is going to be representing other players down the line. I mean, all those sort of things go into the decision by Brooklyn. If I'm Brooklyn, I'm looking at it like, okay, can I get some young, very talented players and make sure the money matches up? And then how many picks can I get, right? How many picks can I get? And they are not going to be the team that they thought. We saw this before with the Brooklyn Nets, as we know, with Kevin Garnett. with Paul Pierce, and the model to success has been illustrated countless times. And all you need, if you're an organization looking to figure things out, right? Look at Toronto. Look at Toronto. And look at San Antonio in the past. You know, there's very few that can go out there and swing. And Miami's one of them. Pat Riley's one of them. We know that about Pat Riley, right? Don't ever discount Pat Riley and what he can do.
You know, Matt, you mentioned a key word in all this, and that's timeline. Because is there a timeline? And you know as well as I do that there's a group of guys in New York City sitting there with a schedule to release, trying to figure out where Kevin Durant's playing to appease our friends at ESPN and appease our friends at TNT. Basically, the NBA is on hold until this deal probably gets done, isn't it?
Well, the schedule will be released roughly in a month, right? Typically. And decisions are going to be made prior to that. They'll wait, last minute probably to figure some things out. It's why more than likely on exclusive window nights, a Thursday night, for instance, for Turner, you'll be over the years, you've seen more games that night. There was a period, John and Bob, as you both know, that they literally only have two games on those nights. And those games were the featured games. You weren't allowed to go up against them, what have you. Then they started to sprinkle in a third game, a fourth game, a fifth game. And I think that's what they're going to do. And then I think when it comes to a regular Wednesday, Friday package for ESPN, there's enough games that if they need to adjust, they'll adjust there. Yeah. And then the Sunday ABC, which begins later, right, kicks off typically Christmas time, we'll know then too, with the amount of games on Christmas Day, what they decide to do. There'll be some flexibility there. There always is in the NBA schedule based upon how teams are performing. But as far as a timeline, to get back to that, to your point, there really isn't. The timeline is 4 years. That's the timeline. And the question is, for Brooklyn, do they feel that they can get more now? Or do you say to yourself, you know what? I think I can get more, meaning Brooklyn, if we wait to the trade deadline and somebody is really desperate,